I'm just going to turn the camera on, take a couple deep breaths, get slow into it, think about what I want to talk about. I just got a whole bunch of figures right here, and I'm going to try and make some sense. Kind of a collection update. Remco AWA figures. You know I love Remco stuff. I'm probably the only guy with like multiple videos of Remco stuff on their channel, but collection started with AWA Remco action figures, which were fitting kind of nice with your Masters of the Universe figures back in the day. Helped fill out your ranks, and you can fight. These were a 2-pack. I had these when I was a little kid, and I lost Ric Flair, and half my Masters of the Universe figures, they got thrown out when Snake Mountain got tossed. Managed to buy almost all of them back. I was missing all the weapons though. They were in there too. But I buy all these beater figures, and I made a mold of that. So I had them. I had to rebuy Ric Flair. Filling up my ranks. That was the only 2 figures I had. That and the ring, because I moved on to, like, these came out just like right then too. And WWF, that was the main event stuff right there. This is what we really wanted. We wanted Piper. But these were okay. I really loved the little mini figures, and I had damn near the whole collection. They also got tossed. But AWA stuff kind of lacked the star power. I had the biggest star in the lot. I had Ric Flair. Didn't have the Road Warriors. That was probably the next biggest star. Everybody else was kind of a lot of guys who ended up being the biggest stars. You had Scott Hall. You had Shawn Michaels, Marty Jannetty. But the rest of the guys were kind of like weren't household names except for this dude right here. But I've been buying them up. I got Rick Martel. I got Steve Regal, who I don't think he did much after the mid-'80s. Sweet Stan Lane. I think this is him as the Fabulous Ones, but we know him better from, what was it? Midnight Express. Oh, I forgot. Mr. Perfect, Curt Hennig. He's up there. He's household name star. You got Baron von Raschke and Greg Gagne. Cool lot. Missing some star power. You could have got like some of them. I forgot the same people who made Galaxy Warriors. They made some knockoffs. They made Iron Sheik. They made an Andre sort of figure, and they made like a Hulk Hogan knockoff. But my collection, I didn't mean to even get this many, but I just like every time I see like a cheap He-Man figure, I buy it. I got probably like 3 Man-at-Arms. Need them. Whatever. Always makes me feel good. As if it's cheap and I buy it, makes me feel good, I bought it. This figure, I had to put some money in because my AWA collection needed some star power. And we got the biggest star of the 80s. The Hulkster. This Hulkster fits right in. This is not an AWA Remco figure, even though he looks like one. This is Thunderlips from the Rocky III collection, made by some company, Phoenix Toys. I looked them up. I couldn't find any information on them. To my knowledge, this is the only thing they ever did. For some reason, my parents had a beef against Sylvester Stallone when I was a little kid. Wouldn't buy me Sylvester Stallone figures. I didn't get a Rambo figure. I eventually got them. Crap, I'm going to have to do a cut-in. Rambo figure cut-in. There we go. Finally got him, but I never got the Rocky III figure. And I just passed by this figure, and there was 2 of them at the vintage shop I go to. One was $20, one was $25. And normally I always go for the cheaper figure. I don't care if it's a little beat up. But I always regret it thereafter. I was like, I don't like that nick on them, or I don't know, he's missing a little paint on his feet. I didn't cheap out. I bought the $25 one. And he looks damn near mint. And he had some much needed star power. to my Remco figs, even though I'm probably never going to finish this Rocky 3 collection, because they got Apollo Creed, which I've never seen out in the wild. I have seen the Rocky figure a few times out in the wild. I just didn't feel like buying it that day. There's always something else I was buying, because that was another like $20, $25 figure, and it was like, I can get 3 $10 figures today, and I don't want to spend another 20. Then I go back, and then the figure ain't there. I did see Mr. T, Clubber Lang figure when I was buying this the same day. Hopefully I go back to that shop, it's there. I did have the Galoob B.A. Baracus figure. So I didn't need that figure when I was a little kid. But I'm glad I finally picked up Thunderlips. He ain't Thunderlips because he's going in with this collection instead. He's going in with my AWA figure. He was in the AWA first. He is taller. His legs are not bent. Which makes sense because Hulk was, at the time, like 6'7", 6'8". He ain't that no more because he always had to do his leg drops to finish. Ric Flair recently made fun of him for that, saying that he wouldn't have all them back surgeries if he ever let anybody else win. And Hulk kind of, he joked about that. They both had a laugh about that. I thought that was cool. All right, Rocky 3 came out in '82. The figure came out in '83. So that was, He-Man's came out at '82. Seems like this is more of a rip-off figure of the rip-off figure. Like, look at how weird they sculpted the abs compared to the He-Man figures. Seems like they were more ripping off these figures with like the leg construction, stuff like that, than actual He-Man figures. This is '85, but they were already doing the Warlord figures and other stuff in like '82. So I think this is a rip-off of a Remco style, other than them from He-Man. So we got this to this, down to this. This is 3 shades of rip-off. Original, Remco style, and then we do this. And their innovation was straight-legged figure. That was a good likeness back when they didn't even care about doing a true likeness to anybody. It was before he started losing his hair. Thunderlips had a full head of hair. By WrestleMania 2, forget about it. He was already well into receding. Yeah, brother. There was like a ball joint in there where this was a rubber thingy that held them together. Big thick rubber band that held them together. They all sculpted backs exactly the same. Like, all the bumps are in the same spots. Like 1, 2, 3 bumps. 1, 2, 3 bumps. 1, 2, 3 bumps right there. So they were all sculpting and looking at the same stuff right there. They went absolutely berserk with the abs, though. That is some strange abs. These are like dead-on copies. Even He-Man has nipples. Ric Flair. Thunderlips? Yeah, he's got some. Just look at these guys. Now I got some star power. Now I got him. Hogan and Mr. Perfect, or Hogan versus Flair. Now we got some dream matchups here. I for the longest time I kept finding ways to stick Larry Zbyszko into. This is the only figure from then survived from my childhood, because having Steve Regal, which I don't think I've ever seen a match of him. Sweet Stan Lane, yes, he's cool. This is not the version that we all know, anyway. But we got Hulk Hogan to fight him. Baron von Raschke. I like Baron von Raschke. He was one of my faves. Fun figure. Was that all I was gonna say? I don't know. Oh, here's some other Remco figures I picked up. I didn't even know about this. Sarge Team. I did a video on Sergeant Rock figures, but they were even making this they're kind of making it in that same style, even though they reused like Warrior or Warlord body mold and just did wrestling figures. Look, he's got little medieval boots on, like Mr. Warlord here. No, this, they didn't do that. They straight up did all new sculpt for them trying to capitalize on G.I. Joe, mashup between G.I. Joe and Sergeant Rock, which is a G.I. Joe knockoff figure, but they had that. And here's another Warlord type figure. This was Hercules, and this was, I think this predates most of them. This is Pirates of the Galaxies. I made a video about him too, but look at this guy. This is like the worst figure ever. I love it. I love it. I showed a fellow toy collector pictures, like, look at this weird thing I picked up, and he looked at me like, that's why I need it in my collection. It's vintage, it's ugly, it's terrible. Here's another one. I did a video on him. The Shield from the Archie comics. Mattel had Marvel Secret Wars. Kenner had DC for superpowers. So what was left over? Archie comics. I saw pictures of this figure. I thought it was much larger. Look how much smaller he is compared to a Remco fig. Well, this figure is complete. He didn't come with like a cape or nothing like in the movie. It's Thunderlips. Vern Gagne, you screwed up. You had him. Just should have gave Hulk his t-shirt money. Could have saved him for a few more years. Put in some production or something like that. But no, you screwed up. You lost the whole territories to Vince McMahon. Now I got a fight going on. Mr. Perfect, take that. His legs don't move so good. I can barely do the leg drop with them. So, here's some provoking thought. Alright, this is not my original figure, but I do have the original Prince Adam sword from when I was a kid. So I was like, this is like the ship of Theseus, whatever it is. If you replace all the parts on the ship, eventually, is it still the same ship? So if I replace the whole figure, but I still have the original accessory, does it still have its childhood mojo? Sorta does. It sorta does to me. That's what I'm gonna say. This is not quite my childhood figure, but I still have the sword. Sword makes the figure to me on this. I don't know why. This to me feels like my childhood He-Man figure, who got long thrown out in the garbage in the Great Purge of, I think it was around 1992. I was not a big Hogan fan of the 80s. I like the bad guys better. Let's talk wrestling. This is why I really wanted to do this. Macho Man always had a beef with him. Famous when the Mega Powers broke up. He was like, he didn't like his showboating and his hot dogging and stuff. And Bobby Heenan was always calling Hulk Hogan a phony. And then when he went Hollywood Hulk Hogan, kind of all made all the old past stuff, gave it like a deeper context. They were right. Bobby Heenan, yes, he was a weasel, but he did call Hulk Hogan out as being a true villain at heart and being a phony. And that kind of played into that whole, it gave like him turning heel like a deeper context of a backstory. We weren't supposed to think about it that deep back then. It was just, oh, he's a good guy fighting people. But Macho Man was right. I think he was trying to get with Miss Elizabeth, which, was it WrestleMania 5? Yeah, it was WrestleMania 5 they fought. And that is the story behind that. Alright, if we're really deep diving into like our own head canon, I don't think Hogan ever really became a good guy till that WrestleMania in Toronto with The Rock. And the audience just like turned him because they were like, Hulkster. Hulk. They were pulling for him over The Rock, of all people. So before he was in WWF, he was in AWA, he was a good guy, but before that he was a bad guy in the WWF and all throughout the territories. So, alright, maybe he was a good guy when he beat Iron Sheik, but then it kind of went to his head. Macho Man always knew, Piper always knew too. It's like, alright, he's a phony, he's a fake, Heenan knew. And he was always like trying to steal other people's thunder and stuff, like Bret Hart's versus Yokozuna, stuff like that. Halfway through his WCW run, finally turns, starts the NWO, and like, he did have a face run kind of towards the end there, but that's because everybody was a heel there. So when he finally comes back to WWE, and he actually feels the love from the crowd in Toronto, I think that's when he was finally actually a real face deep down in his heart. So that is my take on Hulkamania. To me, Piper, he was never a bad guy. He was just self-righteous. He knew. Same with Macho Man. He had his issues. Him and his weird relationship with Miss Elizabeth, making her like, you stand there the whole match or whatever. That's why we liked him, because he was crazy. Right, Piper was a bad guy early in his career in the territories. And then he turned good in whatever the hell the NWA was then. It was Georgia Championship Wrestling, Florida, wherever the hell he was. Around Starrcade, he was a good guy. The first Starrcade with the collar match versus Greg the Hammer Valentine. Then he goes to WWF. He's a bad guy. He's like the worst bad guy. But he was like self-righteous. He was obviously on coke. Head canon, it did something to his brain. He got there, he got extra money, boom, he's acting crazy. Then he's going to go do They Live. He turns into a good guy by WrestleMania 3. He's a good guy. He's never a bad guy ever again, basically. All through the early 90s, all through WCW. I think he had that like one run-in to help Vince McMahon that was like weird and out of character, like a few years before he died. But he was basically always a good guy, and he was never a chicken shit heel. He'd just go right up and fight anybody. So he was just a tough guy, self-righteous. That's why I liked Rowdy Roddy Piper. Didn't like phonies. I don't know, fun video, I guess. Just rambling and whatever. So that's what I got. Thanks for watching. Like, share, subscribe, all that crap.